Welcome to our federal politics panel. Allan, please take it away. Thanks so much, gentlemen.
Thank you, Taylor, and thank you for having us here. We have three of the best thinkers and talkers on Canadian politics here. All of them also, I should mention, command absolutely obscene fees for proffering their advice. And today they're doing it pro bono as a consequence of the worthiness of the... You have their bios in depth, so I'm just going to introduce very, very briefly. Scott Reid, former advisor to Paul Martin, many other Liberal candidates. Jamie Watt, former communications director and advisor to Mike Harris and many Conservative politicians. Robin Sears, former chief of staff to Ed Broadbent and Bob Ray, and now an objective chronicler of the human condition, as I am, no longer partisan. I want to start very, very broadly and just get each of your assessments of how the campaign has gone thus far, where we are. I mean, who's up, who's down, who's got momentum, or has nothing changed at all, Scott?
Well, it's an uninteresting answer, but I don't think a lot has changed. I think we saw a little bit of change right out of the box. Liberals took themselves up from sort of whatever, the mid-20s or something, got something going around 30, and they've been stuck there. And depending on which of the insane polls you believe, Stephen Harper's sort of, you know, right on the brink of majority territory, 36, 37, 38, 39, whatever. And I don't think a lot has happened. The two things that I think are interesting about the campaign so far, for the first couple of weeks, the media and dialogue around the campaign was clearly content to discuss it as a two-man race, as a Harper-Ignatieff play. And you saw Jack working hard to get into the play. I don't know if Robin will agree with this, but that would be my sense. Not necessarily in a fair reflection of the numbers, but that narrative wanted to triumph. And I think one of the things that's interesting is we've had a couple of events. There's been some strange numbers from some Quebec pollsters about what's going on in the Outaouais and Montreal with the NDP, whether they're coming on. And we saw Jack give, I think, fairly strong performances in the debates, particularly in the French debate. And there's been a lot of media commentary around that, and perhaps some suggestion in the last two overnights, which you got to be, you know, you can speak to the pollster about the peril of relying on those too much. But suggesting that maybe the NDP are coming up, not at the expense of their parties, but maybe coming up. So we may see one major development, which is the melting of the two-man narrative into a three-way bun toss, and that would be a significant development and a negative one for the Liberals.
Jamie, what do you make of it?
I agree with Scott. I don't think much has changed, and I think there's a reason for that. I think the campaign's been about fiddling around the margins. It's about being what some people call these scandalettes, which actually don't matter and they actually don't go to anything. And what it's done is it's deprived the campaign, the oxygen for the campaign, of talking about issues that actually matter to Canadians. And I think we talk a lot about the disengagement of Canadians. I think one of the reasons we're disengaged isn't because we put crappy ads on TV. It's because we're not talking about things people actually care about. And so the effect of that has been to basically lock in the players in the positions they were at the starting gate. So while they've changed a little bit, for sure, prime ministers come down a little bit, the guys have come up a little bit, Mr. Ignatieff is never going to get from first place to top as long as we're not talking about issues. So that's why I don't think much has changed.
Robin?
You know, I was thinking this morning in the shower that this is either the 15th or the 16th federal election that I've observed or played a role in. And I was sort of comparing them in my head in terms of where they've developed in this last one. And I think two things have happened I've never seen before. The first is that there really is a subterranean campaign going on as a result of social media and non-party owned activity. Some of it is social media driven, some of it isn't. But I think that phenomenon of organizations like Lead Now and Student Vote and a whole variety of others have created a dialogue about the election that isn't in the mainstream media and isn't owned by the parties. As a former party campaign manager, I would have hated that and fought against it. But to me, that's an interesting phenomenon. The second one is, I have to admit, I think the media have been especially lazy in chasing things other than the latest shiny bauble dropped in front of their nose in this campaign. There's been much less effort than I think we saw a decade or so ago to get off the bus, to look at regional issues, to look at local stories. Today will be driven by Helena Georges's tear-filled press conference because, hey, it's easy, it's out there. So I think those two phenomena are affecting the campaign in ways that are going to be hard to to predict the outcome of, but I think they're real.